Well, Shane, it's great to have you on the Christian Rod 20. Of course, this is the first time that we've had you on, although I had almost forgotten about this, but way back in the day, like at least 3 years ago or so, we had your former bandmate Josh on the show to talk about Glower. So it feels like I should know you.
You did?
Yeah, a long time ago.
I had no idea. That's freaking awesome. I had no idea he did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. It was like when that split EP came out on the 45, and he was
the Broken Circles thing.
Yeah, and don't take this as like a hint, because I promise it isn't. But he's one of the few people who was like really cool and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do that, and I'll send you some digital stuff. Would you like the vinyl?" I'm like, yes, please. Vinyl is kind of my thing. And he's like, "Okay, sweet." So I got a copy of that, which made me very happy. So yeah, it's all good.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you have.
I think I just kind of randomly heard about Glower, and then I'd listened to some of the streaming tracks online, and I was like, "Man, this is good. I like this." And then it was fun.
Yeah, he's one of the greats, man. Like I wish he could do more of these podcast things, because just any of I say podcast, sorry, because we just got done talking about a podcast, but like. I wish he would do more stuff like this, because I enjoy hearing him talk about things much more than I enjoy like ever hearing myself talk about any of this stuff, because he's really, really like fun and interesting to talk to. And when you actually said like, who do you think you kind of sound like? Has anybody ever told you sound like anybody? I thought just random, like in the back of my mind, I'm like I don't think Josh has been on this thing, but I think he might say Josh. So just not as cool. Maybe just the tone of voice, but definitely not as cool. So, anyways,
that's funny. Yeah. Well, now speaking of which, while I was sitting here, kind of taking notes and kind of getting ready for the interview and everything, I did some digging, and man, I've got something I got to ask you about that I'm not sure if you're going to want to talk about or not, but I feel like I would be remiss if I did not bring it up.
Oh, I will talk about anything, so bring it up.
Okay. I want to talk about your band Silent Frequency.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I'm totally just kidding. I will talk about the Frequency all day, man. So
well, we don't have to talk about it at length, but I just randomly saw it pop up on one of the various Facebook pages that you're connected to, and I was
it might be worth talking about more than Everything in Slow Motion or anything else combined. Like, people actually might be way more entertained to hear about Silent Frequency. So
well, now just for some clarification, and so the people who are listening who haven't seen what I've already seen kind of know, this was a band that you and Josh, who you were also in the band Hands with, who now is in the band Glower, you and he were in what was self-described as a rapcore band called Silent Frequency back when you guys were like in junior high, and I'm guessing a little bit of high school.
The Christian Limp Bizkit, yeah.
Nice. Well, there were a few of those. And here's the sad part that well, I don't know, maybe it's not sad. Maybe I just need to own it and be okay with it. I was so on board with all the rapcore stuff, and some of the bands that are kind of going back to that a little bit, like 1,000 Foot Crutch is kind of like, reintroducing kind of the rhythmic vocal, and POD seems to be re-embracing it a little bit here and there, and other bands that are kind of like, we got popular with that, we went on, tried something else, but now it's not, at least it's not like hugely frowned upon now like it was 5 or 6 years ago. It's kind of interesting to see it come back around at least a little bit.
Oh, totally. So I work with a dude that is constantly trying to like shove new music down my throat, like in the hardcore metal kind of genre. Like, and it's funny because it's stuff that I don't like, that particular genre. Like, and I feel like a lot of dudes my age or that maybe come from the same kind of background, everyone kind of grew out of listening to metal and hardcore. I mean, we all played it and we did our time. Like we loved it and did it for a long time. But then now it's like, the only conversations we have in music these days, it's like, oh yeah, have you heard the new Kendrick Lamar? Or have you heard the new, everybody still can't believe I've never listened to Thrice or Sigur Rós. It's like, it's all of that stuff. It has nothing to do with like, like the only time we ever talk about metal or hardcore is when we are like talking about stuff that's in our old CD book from 10 years ago, like cool Darkest Hour albums and things like that. So it's funny, like he keeps showing me all this, like all these Vans Warped Tour bands, that just have like the entire crowd of like 14-year-old girls just like there at 5 a.m. to stand in line to see them. And it's like the one thing I've noticed is some of these bands now have started introducing a lot more of the hip hop and the rap element. And it's like, it's definitely making a comeback in some shape or form. I think a friend showed me this band, Falling in Reverse. I nearly threw up. It was the worst. Like, I have never been so uncomfortable listening to music in my life. And, and all of a sudden when he started rapping about like hoes and whatever else, I just wanted to smash my computer over my friend's head. Like, I'm like, dude, what is this? Like, but I mean, it was the thing I noticed. I'm just like, man, like he is legitimately rapping right now. Like it's, you know, so whatever. But yeah, we don't have to go down that road too far because I'll just get crazy and throw my phone out the window. But, I get it, but Silent Frequency was our, you know, we were 13 years old, maybe 12 when we started. I don't really remember. It was 12 or 13, and we lived in a small town of like 1,500 people that, like, all those kids worried about were sports and farm equipment. Like, that was it. Like, no one cared about music or anything that we were doing.
I've been in that town.
Oh, dude, so it's funny because all of our music, like all of our like Christian rapcore lyrics were like geared towards like all the people rolling around in their trucks yelling Bible bangers out the window. You know what I mean? Like we're two dudes. We're these two dudes with red New York backwards hats because we learned the best from Fred Durst. Yes. But we're also just like missionaries on the front lines for the Lord in our heads. As soon as you know, these dudes drive by, they're just like Bible bangers, and it's like, yeah, good one. You can't come up with anything else, can you? And it's like, it's ridiculous, man. So we had that band. I actually revisited that band last night at like 2 a.m. because I was going through all these old CDs, and I found a CD that was labeled by Josh Silvernagel. Yeah. And it said, SF is dead. So I popped it in, and it was seriously everything we had ever recorded, including a bunch of these live tracks. And I was just like, I have to burn this right now in case this CD, or not burn it. Yeah. Some people might think I should just burn it, like set it aflame. But like, I need to put this on my computer because if this CD should ever perish, I might lose it all. It was funny, man. Like, we had some really great lines back then. I think the most like memorable one for me was, so let's take it to another level. I got to say I ain't down with the devil.
Nice.
We were really Pillar influenced back then.
Oh, well,
like Pillar was huge for us as kids. And so it's just like, piece of advice, man, please change your ways. You're going to pay your bills when it comes to Judgment Day. And those lyrics still might be deeper than some of the stuff I've heard on that Vans Warped Tour thing. Like, I think those lyrics might actually hold more weight and meaning than a pretty decent amount of bands that my friends have showed me from all that stuff. So
nice. It's so funny.
But anyways, I'll close my mouth on that.
That's all right, man. That's all right. It's so funny that you brought up
Long live Silent Frequency.
Right. The lead singer of Pillar. It was so funny. When I interviewed him before they came back with this comeback record that they just recently released, I was like, I know that you guys had done kind of the rap rock thing like way back in the day, and you kind of went away from it. I was like, there's some bands that seem to be bringing that back. Do you think that'll ever happen with you? He goes, no. I was terrible at it. I don't know why we ever did that. It seemed like the thing to do at the moment, but never again. And then what's on the new record they just released? There's some rapping stuff in there, and I was like, dude, what happened? He goes, He goes, I think the fans wanted it, and I felt uncomfortable about doing it just because I felt like I wasn't really the best at it, but we felt like we needed to give people something from every era of Pillar, and that's part of our history. I was like, okay.
He wanted it. Yeah. He wanted it. He just can't say it. He wanted it. There's a good chance that there's something inside that dude that lives and breathes that won't die, and it made its way out in the studio, And it's like, I don't think he should take any of that back at all, because even when we go back and listen to those albums today, they're fantastic. Who cares if it's like, an Oklahoma, like, young white dude rapping about Jesus? It was killer back then, Right. So it's like, he shouldn't be ashamed of that. And I don't think he really is, because he wouldn't have rapped again.
Yeah.
So I think he still got it.
Yeah. Rob just needs to own it. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, there we go. Just own it, Rob. If you're listening to this, just own it, man. So, because it's good, and you're good at it.
Right.
So,
and plus, to me, I think if anything from their discography like really dated them that much, it was just that first album where their guitarist was just really obsessed with 311, and every song kind of had that reggae vibe to it.
Oh, totally, yeah. So, yep, I remember we wanted to do everything those guys were doing. We sent our demo to Flickr Records back in the day, and they declined it. And I remember being young enough to where I was like, okay, well, if you guys don't like it, that's cool, but can you mail it back to me? And they straight up, in this blue, shiny, like, bag, mailed it back to me. So, it was great.
That is fantastic. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think when I got the envelope back in the mail, I think, like, I tried to, like, get into a different mindset of, like, okay, just forget that you asked for this back. This is like new mail from Flickr Records. Like, what could it be? Like, you know what I mean? I think in my head, like, I wanted it so bad to switch gears and just create a moment where maybe I was getting something cool, like a great Christian record deal.
Yes. I've had those moments myself. I understand.
Yeah. I opened it to find our disappointing 3-song EP.
Yeah.
With the brightly lit cross on the cover and us in backwards hats looking at it.
Dursting it up.
But anyway, I'm telling you, this might be way more entertaining to talk about than everything else. So,
well, in as much as it might be, I mean, considering people are actually getting to hear stuff from everything in slow motion right now, we should probably at least talk about the single, because I'm really enjoying it. I just watched the music video for it, and of course, for people who have gotten so lost down the rabbit hole of what we were talking about, we're talking about the song Coma, which I like a whole lot. So let's talk about the song. What kind of went into the making of the song, of the writing, recording, all that good stuff?
I'm trying to think of where to start with that. Like, because I can talk for hours. I talk way too long on this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to choose highlight moments that people might actually care about, and stuff that, like, leave out the stuff that I care about, but no one else thinks is cool. So,
well, and I will tell you this up front. I mean, the interview part that'll go on the actual broadcast will be edited a little bit for time and all that and brevity, but there will be a full version that will be online exclusively, that people who just like are enjoying this so much and be like, man, I wanted to hear more about this. Well, they'll be able to hear more.
Nice.
So yeah, no worries, man.
Okay. Cool. Let me think. I just was in the mood to write new music, and that's kind of how this whole project works for me. It's not so much like, hey, like, this isn't a living for me. I don't do this full time, and it's not something that puts money on the table, or food on the table. It doesn't do any of that. So it's like, it's very much like hey, when you're inspired to do something, like, let's do it. That's kind of our agreement, with Face Down right now. And Jason and Virginia and Dave and Shannon over there have been really, really cool in just allowing me the opportunity to just do music, and not really stress about being on the road or trying to do this or that, you know what I mean? Which has been really, really fantastic. And honestly, like, dare I call them fans? I hate saying that word because it just feels wrong. But I'm not going to say friends either, because that just feels terrible and like elementary school. So, but like, the fans of the project have also been just as great, and in the sense of buying the music and supporting it and allowing that opportunity to still happen and be a thing. You know what I mean? I mean, I would assume after 2 or 3 records, if no one was buying it but like a few of my friends down the street, Jason and Virginia would probably be like, hey, so this was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, good job. We'll see you whenever, like, you know. And but so it's been great. So I mean, I kind of got inspired to just write an EP and kind of explore some new ground, stuff that, you know, I just wanted to kind of do something different and try different writing methods and, you know, things like that. Because I always kind of do the same. Like, my process is always kind of the same when it comes to writing music. Like, I tend to stick towards the things I know, as far as, like, you know, okay, I'm going to open up my computer and I'm going to open up a session in Logic, and I'm going to, you know, start with drums, and then I'm going to build, you know, a riff on top of that. So it's like, when you do that same thing over and over again, it's like, you know, you can come up with obviously a million different outcomes, but they all kind of have a little bit of the same dynamic, at least for me anyways. Like, of course they're going to sound like me because it's me doing it, but as far as like just the dynamics of it, like the guitar, everything, it kind of like runs on the same street. And so with this, I'm like, if I can switch it up and make myself extremely uncomfortable, like, let's do it. So I started writing with an acoustic guitar, and which was really weird because, like, I hate the idea of being the guy on the stool in the really nice sweater singing acoustic songs to, like, a crowd or people. Like, it's the cheesiest thing for me to think of myself, like, in that position. Like, have you ever seen the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah. Well, no, I haven't, actually. I wanted to, but I never have.
Okay. I'm not at all saying that, like, I have anything to do with that. Like, that's not me, but the guy that I'm talking about, the guy in the sweater, is like at the end of that movie. Like, Mark Wahlberg is just like, you know, like just this big, like, heavy metal, you know, 80s era kind of rock star dude.
Right.
And then as soon as, like, he gets done with all of that, all of a sudden he's in this club in front of like 20 people, and he's got this really nice sweater on, and his hair is cut and kind of done up to the side. And he's just like playing this like really soft, like, you know, like, everything has changed now. Like, I'm finally free kind of music.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't ever want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to any capacity. And, anyways, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just like, I just can't envision myself like,
you're
you know,
not that
like,
guy.
Yeah, sitting there with the acoustic, I guess. So there I am with the acoustic, trying to write music and challenge myself to just create a different sound and a different vibe. And basically, yeah, just started with that and then moved on to adding in the other elements as I felt necessary, which is why I think this whole EP, you know, there's really no screaming on it, which is something that's pretty different from, you know, the past stuff that I've been a part of. And it's just because it's like, it's one of those things where, to me, it's not a necessity. Like, it's not like the main ingredient. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I think to a lot of people it is. I mean, you know, it's like, I don't know. I think to many of the listeners, like, it's the thing that got them into it and the thing that they want to carry them through. And for me, it's like, you know, it's never been like I have to do this because of the genre we're in or the label we're on or whatever. It's just like, I had stuff to yell about. Like, I was pissed off and had stuff to yell about.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, and now, you know, with the EP, it's like adding in all these different ingredients, you know, carefully with guitars and with everything else. Screaming was just not one of those ingredients. Like, it didn't feel necessary. And I have no idea if that's just because it started with the acoustic and built melodically from there.
It's just because you're old.
Maybe I am turning into that old guy in the sweater. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so, you know, everything just started building with different, you know, melodies and things like that. And out came the Laid Low EP, and it's cool because, like I said, it was just a different process. That was like, just trying something new, a new writing formula, and seeing what would happen, and being able to explore some new territory with my music. And most of the people that have listened to this project for as long as they have are ready for that. You know what I mean? I don't think any of the fans of this band want to hear the same crap over and over and over again. You know what I mean? I don't take anybody that I've met that's listened to this band that way. Their response has always been, I think they're moving forward kind of in the same boat with me. You know what I mean? To where they don't want to hear me record Phoenix 2 or 3 times. They don't want me to repeat Give Me Rest from Hands. They don't want, you know what I mean? Like, it's all just a big adventure, man. So Coma was kind of the first, like, big song, like, just kind of a different mood, different feel, all singing vocals, and super cool. Like, I feel like that song jams pretty hard. So
I like
fun
it
to crank it up and listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this is not a question of trying to diminish the artistic process at all. This is just an observation more than anything else. Did you feel like, looking back on that song now, do you feel like it has at least some reminiscence of maybe like early Deftones stuff for you?
I had a feeling you were going to say Deftones, because that is the one thing that kept coming up pretty frequently when we released this song. Is a lot of people, I think, were immediately commenting on the Deftones vibe, and
which is not a bad thing.
Because no, it's not a bad thing. It's just like, it's not a bad thing at all. But it's like, people that know me really well, like, know how much, like, I will do everything in my power to try and, like, catch that stuff and avoid it.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, in all of the past stuff, I can't count how many times someone has been like, "Oh man, have you been listening to Thrice? Have you been listening?" Like, Thrice was like the thing that kept coming up all the time, to the point where, like, it drove me crazy. And I don't know if it became like a point of pride, but I was just like, listen, I don't listen to Thrice. Like, I haven't listened or cared about Thrice since Artist in the Ambulance, and that's nothing against them. That's completely me. Like, I just went off on a different road, and then when they came back with all this really cool, like, all those EPs and then even the newest record, like, it's good stuff. Like, there's been several people that have showed it to me, and I think they're an incredible band. Like, but for some reason, they just have never stuck on my radar as being a band that I am constantly, or even listening to every once in a while. And it's just because, like I said, you kind of go back to, like, when I was talking about the metal stuff, like, I kind of go back to those CDs that were in my CD book 10 years ago. And it's like, Artist in the Ambulance, maybe not 10 years at this point, it's probably more than that, but, like, Artist in the Ambulance was, that CD I had in my CD book that I played all the time. And then after that, album passed, I was, I took a left turn and went down the road of, like, I don't know, like, Misery Signals and stuff like, it just all changed. So, the Deftones thing, it's kind of the same thing, where it's like, I don't listen to the Deftones, like, and they're a great band. It's the exact same situation, but I've never found myself, other than, I think, in 2003 or whatever it was, 2004, they released that album with, like, the big skull on the front.
Oh yeah,
and that Minerva song, and I was just like, this is killer, like, this is great, and I listened to it a lot then, but then after that, just kind of fell off the boat. And I know, so I don't, so for me, it's like, as soon as people pointed some of that out, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I think maybe some of the, like, the ambient, like, the ambient lead line and some of the chord structure kind of lends itself to, like, okay, that sounds familiar. Like, it kind of brings you to some of that thing that the Deftones are famous for, but at the same time, I'm like, I wouldn't have written anything different, because, that's, I don't know, to me, and I'm just like, that sounds like what I do. So, but anyways.
Well, and that's all good, man.
I
get
it.
And that's one of those things where it's funny. I was listening to an album on the way to take my daughter to the babysitter today, and I was thinking about because whoever it was I was listening to, it kind of figured out a different way of saying like the same thing that everyone always says in a song, but they had said it in kind of a more artsy, roundabout sort of way, which I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, that's clever, and I think that's cool, but I also think it's somewhat sad that there's been so much that has been done that there's almost a stigma of saying something simply and more straightforward because it's just somehow seen as being trite. And I'm like, it's sad that, it's like the only reason why it's trite is because other people have done it. It doesn't make it any less honest for you doing it. It's just you were born in a time where other people have done it before. And while I get why that's kind of the reaction a lot of the times, I'm still like, that's just sad that, what would have been groundbreaking and classic if you had done it 30 years ago is now like, it's like, well, how many people have said it that way? It's like, just because that many people have said it that way doesn't mean that I've been studying the way they write their songs.
Yeah. And, and that's the thing that I think, I've been able to wrap my head around that for a long time, thankfully, because I've been at this point for a while where it's like, I don't like sit there and like you said, like study like what's cool or what's popular or what's going to get me somewhere faster or any of that. Like for me, it's always been, and even, go back to like the Silent Frequency days. It's like, we definitely, like, if there was any time that we were really like, taking on inspiration from other bands, it was that time because we were so young and very like, influenced.
Right.
But even then it was so important to us that we created our own vibe and we did whatever was honest and whatever was us and didn't feel ashamed for it. And it's like, that's kind of been, the road for me is like, I'll bump into those moments where it'll be like, I feel like it kind of sounds like this, and I'll try to avoid it, or whatever. But there's always this like moment of submission where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, why would I ever like chase my tail trying to make this slightly different because it might resemble something from here and whatever. It's like, if you're going to make music, man, just make it honest. And, I don't give a crap. Like if it ends up sounding like this or that, you know what I mean? Cause there's only going to be, that's just kind of everywhere in music, especially, and like you said, especially right now, to where I think if you hold back, creating and making art based on, the fear of it might sound like something else, you're probably cutting someone short or robbing them of the joy they might have in listening to that song, And so it's, so I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But then, there are a ton of bands though that are looking for the formula, that are on the constant search for the correct formula of what they think they should do and what's going to get them from A to B faster. And I think that's why, that's very prominent in obviously country music right now for sure. Yeah. but that's kind of Nashville for you. You know what I mean? Like the formula is kind of written on the wall when you walk through the door, but it's like in the metal and hardcore world for the last how many years? It's just like the breakdown could not be more overused. It's like, it's kind of that, it's kind of that same thing where, every band for a while and local bands and national, everybody sounded the same. Everybody sounded the exact same. There was I remember like touring for Hands was just like torture sometimes because it's like, everything, I shouldn't say like touring was torture. It was torture on the ears because you would, every show that we played would have, at least two local bands on it that sounded identical to every other band you had played with on that tour. And it's just like, it was the same, like no one brought anything new to the table. There was just nothing new. And, it got really exhausting. And so, I mean, that whole thing of like studying the formula is absolutely real. Like it happens, but I think when it happens, most people can kind of put together who's out there doing that and who's not. I mean, maybe not, but maybe I'm just like dumb enough and and jaded enough to think I can figure that out. I don't know. So, but yeah. So I don't know how we got to that point talking about one song. But there you go. Okay, I told you, man. I can talk forever about this. I'll drive 500 miles down the road in the opposite direction. So
that's all right, man. That's all right. That's what I get for bringing up the cardinal sin of comparing the guest band to a different band.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I'm always like, yeah, no, it's no big deal. I can handle that stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, my mind just goes like, okay, well, here's what I think about it. Whoosh, and the volcano explodes, and then we're talking about Falling in Reverse at Warped Tour.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah, I feel you, man. So now, maybe slightly more conventional question. What are the plans, if any, at this point for doing touring for this EP? I mean, I know it came out in April, but still, at least kind of the musician's Bible of sorts says that, you tour on any sort of recording for at least a year. But obviously you guys are not every band, but where does that stand for you?
I don't know. It's like I said, we're in a pretty, and I say we because I always look at this thing as like a collective unit, like of the dudes that play live, and you know what I mean, everybody else involved. But it's like we're kind of at a point where, like I said, we're in a unique position to just put out music. There really is no goal of like achieving. I mean, it's always great to have new fans and for the music to speak for itself and for word of mouth to draw new people in, but there's never a plan or real desire to like push. And obviously, at this point in life, when this is something that you're not committed to full time, it's like touring is just like the worst thing you can do. Like,
yeah,
unless you're in a position to be able to do it, and that position is pretty. I feel like a little bit rare. Like it just gets harder and harder because. Touring, you're out there and you're just, most of the time, you're just losing money. I mean, you're certainly, at least when you were a band like we were, and even a band like this, we're not going out, we're not making money, that's for sure. And I don't know how many people can literally just give up their job and their pay for X amount of weeks to go out and do a hobby. We don't really have any plans to tour. Certainly if it was presented in the right way, we definitely have the right people to kind of bend in different directions and make things happen. Like we were offered a pretty significant tour. It was like a year and a half ago, made us all literally like line up everything with work, line up everything with kids. Like, it was a big deal and really unexpected. And then ultimately, when everything was kind of just on paper, it fell through and we missed out. But it's like, and I know you're wondering who that could have been. But I am, and I doubt it matters anymore anyways. But between you and I, it was the band In Flames.
Uh-huh.
And they are big Hands and Everything in Slow Motion fans.
Interesting.
And I got an email from their agent that they wanted to take us out on their last U.S. tour. And
wow.
And it was In Flames, All That Remains, and Woven War. Those were the three big bill bands, and then we were going to be the opener. And then at the very, very end, the booking agency emailed us and said they wanted to just keep it at 3 bands due to money and this or that and this or that. And then so it was just kind of like, that's the music industry for you. Like,
right.
So, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, you never know, man. Like that band Gojira, those guys are fans of Hands and Everything in Slow Motion, which is really cool. Like I keep finding out all this stuff that all these like really cool bands dig what we've done over the last few years. So you never know, like I would totally be all on board if Gojira was like, hey, come to Europe and do like a week or 2 with us. I'd be like, let me know where to sign.
Right, yeah.
But unless it's an opportunity, like that, then it doesn't make any sense. So however you want to chop that up, I wish you the best of luck.
No worries, man. That's fine. That's fine. Not a big deal at all.
But yeah. Touring is just really tough thing for dudes that have jobs and families and things like that. And so as much as we would love to get out on the road and do stuff, we'll probably do like things whenever we can. But as far as getting on the road in a van with each other and living the dream for a few weeks, again, it's like, I don't think anyone even really has the desire to do that anymore, but just festivals, fly out dates, like easy things like that. We've been playing a lot more in Kansas City, which has been great. We'll probably plan to do just some of the anything within like a 6-hour drive or something like coming up in the future here. So just easy stuff that's fun to do. At this point, playing live is just kind of a bonus. We get to go do these songs and have a good time.
Sweet, cool. Oh, I like that, man. That's fantastic. Cool. Well, now I don't want to take up too much of your time, and it's been fun thus far. And dude, I got to say, I mean, in as much as this will be a beast to edit on some level, this has been one of the more enjoyable interviews I've had in a while, just because I thoroughly I like just winding people up and kind of watching them go, because one, it means on the front end less work for me, but also two, it's fun to kind of see what makes you tick, and of course, you're a nice guy too, and that doesn't hurt any either, so that's always a good thing. So yeah, man.
Yeah, well, thanks. So it's kind of, it's funny, like Josh and I were actually just talking about this last week. Like, we're kind of at an age where we can just be honest about this kind of stuff. Like, there's really zero reason to like tiptoe around it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, who's going to do anything about it? You're like, who's going to care? I think people are more interested to hear this kind of stuff these days. You know what I mean? Than just like, we recorded with this guy and it was great. And, I feel like we got our best guitar tones, and we'll see what happens.
The drums are bigger this time.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. It's like, 5 minutes later. Well, thanks for your time, and we're gonna finish at Starbucks here and get back in the van, and thank you. Great. That was a solid 10 minutes of my life there that you told me everything the last 50 bands told me.
Right. Yeah, which is fine. So, and, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a problem with that either, but at the same time, it's nice to kind of get a more candid look at kind of what makes people tick, and especially on the musical end of things, which is a lot of fun. So, yeah, man, it's been fun.
Totally.
It's been fun. And dude, we'll definitely do this again. As long as you're up for it at some future time, we'll definitely have to do this again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm up for it anytime, man. I definitely appreciated the interview. So, but like you said, the EP and touring on that, it's kind of at a point for me where it's like I've moved, I don't know, like a ways past it to where in my head, like I'm already like knee deep in writing an actual full length for this thing. So that's kind of where my head is at now. I feel like the EP was like a really good, like, kind of give people something really, really cool, and then kind of, get people's minds in the right place for an actual full length. It won't be like, the 5 songs from the EP plus five more songs. It'll actually be, it's not going to be like this cheapskate, like, hey, gotcha kind of thing. It's it's going to be 10, 12 fresh new songs. And it's cool because for some reason, I don't know why, but like the demons are just like throwing coal into the fire right now. Like, so it's like right now, lyrically, musically, whatever is happening right now between midnight and 3:30 in the morning is just like really dark and cool and ambient, and it's like, I don't know, I think this full length is going to be the best one yet. It's going to hold the most weight. I think it'll be a real good experience for the people that have been following this band as long as they have. Nice. And you can put that on there.
Now that we've gotten, and now what I need to do is like, I need to cut in an intro of me saying, now, Shane, give us an example of burying the lead. Like, well, Paul, we're working on a new full-length record. Okay, cool.
There we go. Boom. Done.
Saving the best for last, people. That's all it is. Just saving the best for last. I like it. Oh,
exactly.
Man. Sweet deal. Sweet deal, man.
Cool. Well, take care, buddy. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks a lot.